Michael Katz was at SEC Media Days. He has thoughts. I have questions. Let's find out how it went.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Steven Willis. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. This channel is pretty freaking awesome. I'm also a former member of the national media with Yahoo Sports, and I had served a little bit of time as a football staff member. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. That would help us out greatly. Listen, SEC Media Days is over. There's plenty of stuff for us to complain about. Let's talk to Michael Katz to find out exactly what that is. Michael, listen, while you were on the ground there, the SEC network, for whatever reason, they kept trying to get Lane Kiffin to take responsibility for 2024. And when they talk about the teams that were up, that they're paying attention to, they would not mention Ole Miss in that situation, even though on the bottom of the screen, there was like a 30% chance of the college football playoff. Was that the vibe you were getting inside of SEC Media Days?
I'll put it this way. Last year in Dallas, Ole Miss was like one of the bells of the ball, right? With the preseason top 5, 10, whatever it was, a very talked about team heading into last year. And this year, it just kind of seems like no one really knows what to expect. I think there's a lot of that in the league with just who has what and what's coming back. And yeah, some teams have quarterbacks coming back, but they don't have anything else coming back. And there's a lot of unknowns, I think, in this league. And Ole Miss is one of those teams where it's like, yeah, if everything clicks, they're going to be really good, but we just don't know what that looks like, when that happens, how it happens. I just think that compared to last year, like we knew that team was going to win 10 games. Like there was no way that team wasn't winning 10 games. It would have been a lot of things would have had to happen, and they almost did. They tried with with the regular season, but they obviously ended up winning that bowl game and another 10-win season. But we knew that team was going to be good. I don't think if people range on the spectrum from, they could be like Tennessee last year and surprise people and make the playoff, or, maybe they're a Duke's Mayo Bowl team. I just think there's a lot of space in between what people think they know about Ole Miss. And I think because of that, people don't really know what else to talk about other than, well, here's how it went wrong last year.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that was coming across because you're right. There are a lot of unknowns. Texas is preseason number 1 in the whole country. Texas is also on 8-4 watch. I mean, you open up at Ohio State. You go to Georgia. You lost to Georgia twice last year. You lose a game to Oklahoma. Nobody is just assuming Texas is going to win that game. And then you have to go to the Swamp. You have to go to Lexington. I mean, there's some other stuff that can happen. And if it goes wrong, 8-4 is a legit possibility, especially if they get that second loss earlier in the season. The point is, it's kind of a fool's errand to predict this year one way or another. And it certainly is not an emphatic thing. And I understand clicks and stuff like that. I mean, that's my world. But it's funny dealing with the people trying to make predictions when you can't make predictions. Like 13 out of the top 30 teams in the FanDuel thing with the best odds to win the national championship, they have brand new quarterbacks. You have no idea how it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, look at like Texas is really like they really represent this in terms of like they lost a lot from last year's very, very, very good team that was right there. And they're replacing a quarterback, and everyone just expects them to be better, which is, again, it's wild. We've seen Arch Manning play a little bit, and I know there's a lot of expectations for him, but it's not like he's gotten a ton of playing time, and in some of the major moments where he was in, he wasn't great. I think that Georgia game was one that comes to mind where he was okay. He had to come in for a bit. I think when Quinn Ewers went out for a bit, but obviously that last name will go a long way in terms of helping that hype train. But yeah, I mean, look, Oklahoma's entire season seems to depend on John Mateer. Like, if he can convert what he did at Washington State to Oklahoma, there's just so many ifs. And I think Austin Simmons is one of those too. If Austin Simmons is as good as we think he is, I think Ole Miss is going to be really good.
Yeah. I think also if the wide receivers are as good as we think they are going to be with Austin Simmons, if both of those hit at the same time to where you have the pass catchers and the passers operating at an extremely high level, this is the 2023 team. People like to bring up the fact is like, this team is not going to be as good as 2024. It's like, this team is not as talented as 2024. This team is more talented in 2023, and they won more games than 2024. So it's a weird predictive measure that especially people that have to do this and are going to do this for the next 6 weeks to start with.
It's talking season, man. They need something to talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what was your impressions of SEC Media Days?
I'm so grateful that Ole Miss was the first day, because I did not have to deal with there's a lot of hype around certain players at Media Days, and I think Texas was day 2 or 3. I don't remember which one it was, but
Sam Hutchins had to cover.
Yeah, I know. I saw him on TV doing that. I was not upset I had to miss that, because I know that was going to be just an absurd kind of circus. But I think for me, like, obviously, it's I don't know if I'd say a different feel with this team. Obviously, you had Jackson there last year, and I think they had Trey and Jared Ivey were the other two. Like, these are guys that, like, everybody knows everything about at that point. We know about Caden Lee. We know about Daugherty. We think we know about Simmons. But it was cool to hear from those guys, especially Austin Simmons as now the face of the program. I talked about it with Paul Feinbaum. Like, you can't help but when you have a conversation with Austin Simmons, you can't help but be impressed after you leave the conversation, because he's just so mature. He's composed. He's smart. He knows what to say. I understand he's a redshirt sophomore. He doesn't feel like a redshirt sophomore, and so to see him handling questions the way he did, because I know it probably wasn't as big as the Arch Manning crowd, but Austin Simmons had a lot of people around his table. I mean, there were a lot of questions for him. A lot of them had to do with Jackson Dart and how do you follow that up, and he answered everything really, really well. He's a thoughtful kid. I thought he was really impressive. We know Caden Lee's impressive. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Watkins in that he's very measured. He's going to say the right things, usually smiling. You kind of know what you're getting from those guys. But I think to see Simmons in that role, we saw a little bit in the spring a couple times when he went to the podium, but in this sort of environment, I think was really impressive.
Yeah, I don't want to say he was coached well to do it, but he handled that for the first time of him doing it about as well as you could have handled it, honestly.
No, he completely owned it. And of course, it's media days. There's national media there who don't know who Austin Simmons is, and they just have to ask questions. And you get some like very off the wall questions from media, because that's what media days are. It's just kind of a disaster sometimes. And he handled them all really well. I mean, he didn't shrug off any questions. He looked everybody in the eyes when he answered. Apparently a big Oxford Grillhouse fan. If I had that NIL, I would be as well. Apparently he took his offensive line there and he came through. But no, I think it was good to listen. I mean, do we know who Austin Simmons is as a human being from a 10-minute interaction with him at a table? Of course not. But I feel like we got to we kind of got our foot in the door of what this guy is about. And I think that's really important.
When we come back, we will talk to Michael all about the schedule that Ole Miss has this season. It's actually quite favorable. Stick around for that. But first, I do want to tell you, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're about baseball under the light, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make that a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the games while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and Ole Miss versus Georgia State is front and center in my mind, with Ole Miss holding a 37-point advantage right now. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, it is really, really great stuff. Now, Michael, there was some very interesting stuff from Lane at SEC Media Days, and there was something that I knew about, but it just didn't click in, and that is when Lane made his 9 home games comment at Mississippi State. 9 games inside the state of Mississippi. The road games are at Sanford Stadium, at Lexington, Kentucky, which will be a revenge game in a similar vein to what Arkansas was this year, potentially. And they also go down to Mississippi State. 9 games in the stadium. The schedule sets up really well. If Ole Miss can get past Tulane and LSU in September and get to Athens 6-0, the narrative around this team completely changes.
Yeah, I think Lane said it at one point too, is that, the schedule looked pretty good last year too, and look what happened. So I think that he better than anyone understands that just because it looks great on paper doesn't mean it always plays out that way. That being said, that's a lot of games in the state of Mississippi, and yeah, would you have loved to have Georgia at home again? Yeah, obviously. But that's just not the way it works. But when you look at your out of state games being Kentucky, again, like you said, a game that I imagine if Ole Miss isn't up for that game, then there's something wrong, because that game has to, that's got to be eating them alive. That has to have eaten them alive over the last year. Oklahoma, I do think Oklahoma is going to be a lot better, but hypothetically manageable. And then Georgia, obviously, that's going to be tough, but nothing's impossible. I think if you look at that, you get Florida at home, you get South Carolina at home, you get LSU at home. That's a pretty solid haul. Ole Miss is for the most part taking care of business at home the last few years, and I know that it's always a point of emphasis. I know that, again, like the hype around this team is not nearly what it was last year, and it probably shouldn't be, given all the things we don't know. That being said, I think there really is a chance that this team pulls off. If they went 9-3, I wouldn't be surprised, and if they happen to win 10, I wouldn't really be that surprised either. Obviously, a lot of things would have to go right, but I think like 8 feels like the floor. I think 9 seems like a pretty good bet.
Yeah, and if you hit 10, you're playing in the college football playoff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. I think it was funny, though, the 9th home game thing at Mississippi State. This, honestly, all joking aside and all rivalry aside, this is a game where there could be 20,000 Ole Miss fans in Starkville for the first time ever, honestly. Because if it goes like last year for Mississippi State, once deer season hits, they're checking out. And then you're playing as meaningful football at the end of the year. I'm not saying Mississippi State's going to lay down or anything like that. I'm saying the fan base is going to be a little bit easier of a ticket if they have a bad year again.
Yeah, that's going to be a weird one too, because I think it's 11 a.m. I think on that Friday. That's just that's a weird time for that game. So who knows how that impacts things? But Mississippi State's an interesting team too. I don't know what they are. I know they're probably not going to be very good, but maybe they're scrappy. Maybe Blake Shapen becomes the best quarterback on earth. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But every Egg Bowl that I have covered has been bizarre in some sort of way. Every one of them seemed like Ole Miss should have won it pretty handily, and it has always gone that way. So. Rivalry games bring out the weirdest in all parties.
When was your first one?
It was 2021 in Starkville.
Okay, so that was the Matt Corral game.
Yep.
Before they went to the Sugar Bowl. Okay. Yeah, 2019, Ole Miss is very difficult, but Ole Miss has won 4 out of 5 games in Starkville. I mean, there's a lot trending towards Ole Miss in this rivalry to the point where, I don't know, it was weird them talking about how baseball and basketball is going to be their primary NIL focus moving forward. I mean, it just feels like the football program's a little bit broke down in Starkville right now.
I don't know if that's a wise investment strategy either, because if we're playing the who brings in revenue game, football's always king, no matter how bad you are in the SEC. So
yeah,
it's a bold move if that's what they really do.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. All right, so what were your thoughts? Okay, let's ask the question like this: were there any things after Ole Miss's appearance at SEC Media Day that changed the way you were thinking going into SEC Media Days?
I think, again, going back to Austin, I think it's not like didn't think he was going to be good, but just the way he handled himself makes me think that Ole Miss is going to be just fine at quarterback. That reassured. I feel I'm very bullish on him and what this offense is going to be after just seeing how he handled things. And I guess same with Caden Lee. But, again, like, I don't know how that offensive line is going to gel. I don't know how this new defensive line is going to gel, if the new pieces or the pieces that they've been grooming, if they're ready for prime time yet, if the new pieces they brought in are ready to help make sure that, the defense doesn't have a significant drop off. Those aren't the sort of things that, for better or worse, that we can learn at Media Days. Of course, Media Days is great because, like, every team has a chance to win the national championship, right? Mm-hmm. Every goal is like CFP. And yeah, like, everybody can say it in July, but let's see what that conversation looks like in a couple months. It's drastically different. But I think, with Ole Miss, I don't think I learned a ton, and I think that's by design. You never really learn a ton about teams. I think people are playing it close to the vest. Everybody's cautiously optimistic. Some coaches will act like they don't like their team, and they actually do love their team. So, again, talking season's weird. But I think Austin Simmons, that was a good sign to see the way that he handled things. But other than that, I still have a lot of the same questions I did before.
All right, what do you got going on with the Daily Journal as fall camp is, 2 weeks away or something like that?
Yes, less than 2 weeks away, I think now. Mm-hmm. I can't. I swear I was just at the Gator Bowl. Like, I don't understand how this works, but so I'm still got some stuff. We obviously a lot of interviews from Media Days, and I've been working through those since I got back. Got a couple more coming. And then we're probably going to just start previewing the season because when fall camp gets here, it's going to hit us fast. So going to try and take a look at all the different positional groups before fall camp starts and just sort of see where this team stands and, what to expect and the things I'm looking for, when camp does start.
What is the first thing you're looking for when camp starts?
I would probably say, what is the secondary? I think that's a big one. And I am curious about the running back room. Like, what's the pecking order? And I don't know if we're going to know that right away. That's obviously probably going to take some practice reps. But, man, that running back room, it looks a lot better on paper, and it needs to be a lot better because, there are a handful of games that if they run the ball a little bit better, they're in the playoff, Yeah. So I think those are my big ones. And, offensive line, obviously, is always a big one. I'd say that's kind of where my head's at right now.
All right, Michael Katz, Northeast Mississippi Tupelo Daily Journal. We're getting ready for fall camp to begin. Thank you very much, Michael, for stopping by and dropping a little knowledge on SEC Media Days. It was really cool, man.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. So thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. You don't believe me? Go to Google and search Ole Miss podcast on Google. Locked On Ole Miss will be absolutely everywhere. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show and is completely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football's landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word meaning bad football. We'll see you later.